Okay, and here we go. Welcome to another edition of hashtag Ask31. Jeff Marek alongside Elliotte Friedman. And Elliotte, I have a question for you before we get to our guest.
Okay.
How is it that Aaron Ekblad, who is significantly younger than both of us, has somehow managed to grow a better beard than both of us?
Well, I think it just proves that while Ekblad is an all-world defenseman, you and I are all-world nothing. So once you have that skill at one level, I guess you have
Yeah.
that skill at everything.
Okay, so that's our attempt at answering that question. Aaron Ekblad, how would you answer that one? Because I can remember when the first time I met you, when you were a rookie with the Barrie Colts, you already looked like you were 25 years old. You probably had that beard since you were, what, about 18?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a pain at times. I mean, when you're always constantly keeping it groomed, it's kind of a blessing and a curse.
Well, listen, thanks so much for joining us today. It's a tough time for everybody. Quarantined hockey players. Who are you? I mean, right now at your place, it's you and your girlfriend, but give us the landscape around you. By way of hockey players, who are you a stone's throw away from?
I got Keith Yandel on my right, about four doors down. Sergei Bobrovsky's in the area. Mark Pissick, Mike Matheson, Vinny Trocheck still has a house here, but I don't think he's around at the moment. There's a ton of guys that all live kind of in the area. Brian Boyle, I'm not sure if he's gone now or not, but pretty much everyone's in this little 1 mile radius here in Fort Lauderdale.
Who's the noisiest, and why is the answer Keith Yandel?
Honestly, across the canal, about 3-4 doors down, is Anthony Rizzo from the Cubs.
Yeah.
He's definitely the loudest, man. The music's pumping every day. Got to go have a word with him.
I am a huge Rizzo fan. Like, I love the Cubs. Obviously, I'm from Toronto, so I've got a Blue Jay thing, but I love the Cubs. I'm a big Rizzo fan. I would, if you could go over there and just say to him, "You're too loud, but you got big fans up in Canada," that would be okay with me.
Yeah, for sure. I might join in though if I go over there. That's for sure.
Did you ever play baseball? Like, could you hit a fastball?
Absolutely not. Not even come close. I think we did Marlins Park, a few maybe 75-mile-per-hour balls. I pretty much just laid on every one, dug it right into the dirt every time. It's not my specialty.
What other sports did you play growing up, or was it just hockey?
Played a little bit of everything. Did like a year of baseball, a year of soccer, 4 or 5 years of lacrosse. Volleyball in high school, stuff like that. Nothing too crazy, nothing too serious. And hockey always took precedent.
What was your best sport aside from hockey?
Lacrosse, for sure. I loved lacrosse. I still do to this day. When Riley Smith played here, we used to actually go throw the ball around on the beach, and that was a good time. And it was fun to kind of get back to that.
Did anybody know what you were doing?
Probably not. Actually, you know what? It's probably around spring break time in March. We were throwing the ball around, and maybe there were a few Canadians on the beach.
Well, I mean, you grew up an outstanding hockey player, and I can remember Ken Hornick, who's now scouting with the London Knights. Ken, whenever I would talk to Ken, he would always talk about you. You have to see this Ekblad kid. You haven't seen a defenseman like him. And he would go on and on and on about you, granted exceptional status, into the OHL, Barrie Colts, etc. We all know the story. At what point did you start to get the Ken Hornicks of the world coming around more frequently?
I guess towards my obviously after exceptional status was a big deal. A lot of people kind of came knocking and talking and stuff like that, but I always had good people in my ear, like Dale Howardchuk and Bobby Orr and obviously Jeff Jackson, Darren Ferris, who used to be my agent before Jeff. I had a lot of good people in my ear from a pretty young age, and of course I had my dad, who was kind of watching over everything and keeping control of all that. So a lot of those people had a lot of nice things to say, and they obviously guided me in the right direction to be where I am today.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, who are some of the guys before you got to the OHL competing against? Because you had freakish strength and freakish size as well. Who gave you the best run for your money growing up playing minor hockey?
Well, there's a few guys. Brooke Hiddink, I used to have a lot of good battles against. Not somebody that you hear too much from today. I'm actually not sure where he's at, but shout out to him. We always had some good battles back in minor hockey. Connor McDavid, I think his team crushed us 13-1. New York Simcoe Express versus the Sun County Panthers in the finals of the whatever it's called these days. I can't remember. So I had a lot of good battles with a lot of good guys, and my draft class, Dal Cole and stuff like that. I still have a few missing teeth from one of his wrist shots in minor hockey, or in the OHL actually. So yeah, that's about it.
What was the best advice you received when growing up, and what was the worst advice you received when growing up?
Best and worst advice growing up. Best advice: keep your head up when you're stick handling through the middle of the ice. Didn't follow that all too well my first couple of years in the NHL. Had a few concussions, but have since recovered. Other than that, worst advice. Oh man, I can't think of any worst advice situations. Those are ones you try not to hold on to.
Well, just look at it, say positively, you were never given any bad advice. We'll just go with that.
We'll go with that. Like I said, I had a lot of good people in my ear.
We have a few questions from the chat and a few questions at Twitter, hashtag Ask31 to get to here. This one from Craig Martin. Aaron, what team does he love to beat the most? I'm guessing the answer might be in-state and start with a T.
Yeah, that's definitely a big one for sure. In-state rival, no doubt about it. Love beating the Tampa Bay Lightning. I love when we beat the Montreal Canadiens, especially at home when a lot of their fans are traveling in. That's always a big game. It's a lot of fun in Florida when that game's going on. Mm-hmm. For Q, love beating Chicago now that he's around. Gerard Gallant loved when we used to beat Detroit. That was a big deal for him. So there's a lot of those games that you kind of just remember, and you always kind of do it for one of the guys on the team. Jack Capuano loved beating the New York Islanders. It was actually unreal how excited he used to get when we used to play them, especially back in New York. So I love beating all those teams for sure, and there's usually a good story behind it.
Okay, so what's the biggest money on the board game that you've been a part of in Florida?
Ooh. Money on the board game. Probably something that had to do with Luongo. He used to love putting a ton of money up on the board, whether it was his last game in Vancouver or something like that. He used to love doing stuff like that. So probably something that he was doing. There's always, 3, 5, 10,000 on the board when he's there.
Man, he likes to gamble. I like that.
Yeah, it's not gambling when he's that good at poker, though.
I want to ask you about teammates, and one specifically. You come into the NHL, first overall pick in the National Hockey League, Florida Panthers, and once upon a time when Nick Lidstrom joined the Detroit Red Wings, the first defense partner they put him with was Brad McCrimmon, the late great Brad McCrimmon, and was a great mentor for Nick Lidstrom. He went on to become one of, if not the greatest defenseman of all time. You were paired with Willie Mitchell. How much did Willie Mitchell mean for your development on and off the ice?
Oh, man. Most of what I know today in and out of the game comes from a guy like Willie. I lived with him my first year. He actually went and asked Dale if I could live with him, which was kind of a huge honor. It was something that I was a little bit surprised of, and I didn't know that he was going to be doing that. So it was so special for me. Him and his wife took me right under their wing. Their little dog, Pino. I love that little guy. It was great hanging out with him every day. And whether it was learning to cook and stuff like that from Meg, or learning how to fish from Willie, little things like that. And then obviously the ins and outs of the game, how to be a pro, things that, I'll carry with me throughout my entire career. I've learned from him for sure. There's no doubt about it. And then on the ice, we got paired together a few times, but the majority of the time I was playing with Brian Campbell, who was that steady guy, loved to have fun, but also knew the game inside and out, defensively and offensively, and kind of gave me that some of the tools that I carry with me today. So both of those guys did a great job, really teaching me and molding me into the player and person I am today. But obviously, Willie spent a ton of time with him, and I love him to death. Still to this day, talk to him all the time.
We got a bunch of questions from Barrie Colts fans. Surprise, surprise! You were quite a hit there, Aaron, as you all know. For Patrick H, what was your favorite memory in Barrie?
Lots of them. I remember a game. I think it was in the playoffs. Mark Scheifele had like 4 goals in the third period to bring us back from a 4-goal deficit. I think we ended up losing the game, but just the way that guy could take over a game, that was one of my fondest memories. I had a 4-goal game when I played for them against Kingston. And then simultaneously the same year in my draft year, I had a -6 game against Kingston. So me and Sam Bennett both got on the opposite sides of each other on those tilts. Same with Roland McHugh and a couple of good friends. So yeah, that was fun. A lot of good times.
We had one question. What was your favorite place to eat in Barrie?
Trying to remember what the place. Deb's place is a place we always used to go to. I actually still follow her on Instagram. She's a nice lady. She took care of us whenever we went in there. Good breakfast spot, good lunch spot.
What's the signature dish? What would you eat?
Oh man, you're testing me. That's quite a few years ago.
Jeez, Elliotte.
I can't remember any signature dish.
Chicken and pasta, the hockey answer. Come on.
I figured it was something like that. Chicken parm, something like that.
Well, if you know me, I like to sample the whole menu, so I'm sure I had a little bit of everything.
Go ahead, Elliotte. I'm going to grab some more questions here for Aaron.
All right, Aaron. So you mentioned that Keith Yandle is right down the street from you. First of all, how much trash television do you think he's watched in the last month?
Oh, I could only imagine. I forget what he mentioned he was watching the other day, but I know he likes some good shows like Below Deck and stuff like that. I'm not sure if he's one of those like Housewives of Atlanta type guys or not.
I think he is. Yes, I think he is.
He might be. So you'll have to ask him about that. I don't. I guess I hear a little bit of it from Dana here, but that's it.
So what makes him, we had him on the podcast this year, and he is a really hilarious, funny guy. What is a Keith Yandle story that you could tell that won't get us all fired?
Oh man, I don't know if I have one specific story. Again, you guys got to give me some time to think of things like this. I don't know. Have you guys heard of the Spittin' Chicklets thing he did with me recently? Where it was on towards the end of the show a few weeks ago. We had a little get together at the house, and he ended up setting me up. I thought I was getting a private chef to come cook for like four or 5 couples under the 10 limit of the quarantine at the time, and he ended up setting it up so that the chef didn't come. Said he was too nervous to cook for all of us, and I was left without any food. So. It was a good little prank. I was pretty shooken up at the time, but he ended up having some food delivered directly after, and we were all set.
The one of the great things about him too, and I'm always impressed with certainly longevity and the Iron Man streak. What's the closest that you ever came personally to looking at Keith Yandle and saying, "I can't believe you played tonight"?
Actually, the one time I remember, well, I guess there's 2. I actually took a slap shot. He was skating through the middle of the ice and hit him in the foot. Then I think when he took his skate off, I think we were in Boston the next night or something like that. And there was no way he was missing that game. He put his boot on after what he thought was a broken foot and played no issue. And then this year in Carolina, when he took that dump in off the teeth, 8 teeth or something like that, broken jaw in a couple spots, did some quick dental work, some stitches, played the next night or 2 nights after, and ended up having like 20 hours in the chair to fix the rest of his mouth. So he's definitely a battler and something I definitely look up to. I want to play every game I can too, but the way he's done that for that many years is insane. It's unheard. It's almost unheard of, and I couldn't imagine doing it. I think I got to 160 or something like that, and fell short.
Okay.
From M8, personally, what has contributed to your stellar play on the ice this season, and what makes the two righty pair when you and Uyghur are together?
My success personally this year, I think, has just come from learning how to be a bit better pro. It was one of those things where I kind of took the league a little bit lightly my first couple of years, thinking that it was easier than what it was because I had a lot of initial success playing with some great defensemen. So I didn't realize the work that it truly took. And over the last 3 seasons, I really tried to work a lot harder off the ice and do a lot more in the summertime to be a better player and work on all the little things and all the little details that it takes in skating and puck handling and all that good stuff. So I think that's what I attribute to my most recent success. And on top of that, the righty D pairing, I love Weeks. I love playing with him. He's so creative, and which is something that I really like to see from a guy. I want creativity when somebody's with me. I want to make plays, and I'm not worried about making the little mistakes. It's kind of that the longevity that we've had together in this year is just comes from the constant push on each side to be better, and he pushes me, I push him. It's not a perfect relationship all the time. We like to give it to each other sometimes, and we've had our fair share of battles, but we get together on and off the ice very well.
Go ahead. I just want to say it's interesting to say that, Aaron, because you always had the reputation of taking your career and hockey very seriously. So to hear you say that you weren't taking it seriously enough, that really stands out to me because that's kind of against the rep you always had.
Yeah, I'm not saying that I didn't work hard to make it to the NHL, but I think in my second year, I'm like, oh, this is going pretty smoothly. Maybe took my foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Not that I took it easy, just foot off the gas pedal a little bit. Didn't do exactly what I needed to do. So I knew that once that third year slapped me in the face a little bit and ran into some trouble with some concussions and stuff like that, I had to really strengthen my neck and the rest of my body and all that good stuff to really endure 200, 220, 230 pound men slamming into me. So also needed to be agile enough to escape it. So all those things I've attributed to that, and it's something that I focus on every day.
I mentioned Ken Hornick earlier. This is a different scout from your past who's followed your career closely, says, ask Ekblad about the effect that two people had on his career, his brother Darian and former coach Todd Lalonde.
Two of the biggest, obviously my brother, one of the best people I know, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, I think. When we were younger, I used to go in the garage, or not in the garage, sorry, that's now. In our basement, we had some plywood set up at one end with a net, and the floor was just some slick concrete. And he used to have his glove and blocker on with a stick, no helmet, no shoes. Oof. And I'd be shooting pucks kind of as hard as I could at him, and ring a couple off his shoulder every once in a while. I think I broke his toe one time too. So good memories there, and obviously he helped me.
Good memories for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say good memories for you.
Yeah. He stood in there and took it every time. And then Todd Lalonde, that guy's a pusher for sure. One of the better hockey minds I've ever come into contact with, and I love chatting with him to this day. Sometimes he comes out to games in Columbus and stuff like that when he can. Toronto as well. He brings the family. Him and his wife are great people. They taught me a lot about how to be a man. We used to have a no swearing rule in minor hockey, and he stuck to that strongly. And if you swore in the dressing room, he'd kick you right out. You wouldn't be able to practice that day. So just a good guy all around, and like I said, a pusher. I remember a game against Chatham back in the day when I played for Sun County. He said, pulled me aside. I was kind of smiling after the game we had won. He said, Ek, you're the best player on the ice tonight. But that's not going to get you first overall in the NHL draft this year, or OHL draft this year. So kind of one of those things, like that performance wasn't good enough. It was okay, but not good enough. And one of those things that's always stuck with me.
Were you a potty mouth when you were younger?
I wouldn't say I was. No, I never got kicked out. Thank God. I think my dad would have had my ass, but no, I never got kicked out.
You mentioned the drafts, and first overall in the OHL, first overall in the NHL. I remember your draft vividly because there was a feeling that first night. So you go first overall, the Florida Panthers, that it was going to be a different team selecting first overall. The Tampa Bay Lightning made a big push. They really wanted you first overall. The Philadelphia Flyers were interested as well. I don't think it would have surprised anybody to see the Flyers try to pull off a trade that would have seen them move up and take you first overall. How aware were you at that time that you had at least two significant NHL teams trying to trade with the Florida Panthers to get you?
I had no idea. I still to this day didn't know until you just told me. So I guess that's great. That's awesome. But ultimately ended up in the place where I want to be, and I'm happy, and I'm striving every day to help us bring a championship here.
What do you remember from that day, draft day?
Oh, draft day, Philadelphia. Special time with my family. Pretty much everyone came down. I think my grandpa doesn't like flying, so he ended up having my aunt make him drive down from Windsor, which I don't think she was too happy about, but she did it nonetheless. I had a couple of my good buddies there. My brother. It was a special time, no doubt. We had a lot of fun after I had gotten drafted. Ended up having my dad fill up the bathtub in the hotel room with a bunch of beers and stuff like that. And I remember Dale Hawerchuk came by, and my uncle and Howie Campbell, the owner of the Barrie Colts, came, and just kind of sat and had some fun in the hotel room, stuff like that. It wasn't too crazy, but I'll never forget it.
Was that bathtub empty by the time the night was over?
Aha.
I'm sure it was. I wasn't much of a beer drinker back then, so I probably went to bed early.
Did you wear your jersey to bed?
Honestly.
And when did you take the jersey off? Because I can recall players on day 2 when they're flying home still wearing the jersey from drafts.
Really, no, I'm not that I guess crazy you want to say. No, I probably took it off a little bit after, hung it up, and made sure it was unwrinkled.
Okay, from Jonathan Zed, or Z, depending on which country he's in. How much of Nick Lidstrom's game do you try to incorporate into yours? You grew up a Wings fan, didn't you?
Yep, grew up a Wings fan. Loved watching them. My dad always kind of had me in front of the TV watching them when I was younger. Always heard a ton about Nick Lidstrom. Always, watched a lot of their games. Just wanted to be a strong, steady, reliable defenseman who also, jumped up in the play and made things happen offensively. That's kind of the game that I've always wanted. And obviously, he's one of the best to ever do it, if not the best. And I got a jersey in my gym of his upstairs that I, work out in front of all the time. It's one of those things you always kind of have to look back at, and it humbles you to do more and be better.
Is it autographed jersey or regular jersey, anything like that?
It's not autographed, but I've been thinking about trying to get it autographed for a long time. I don't like to bother people. It's not something I like to do, but I got a Crosby jersey, a Burns, a Doughty, and all those guys. I got to get it signed here at some point, but I just haven't mustered up the courage to go ask when teams are in town. I know it's business-like, so.
Aaron, I got to say, I respect that. I would be the same way. I don't like to bother anybody with any of that stuff too. So I totally get where you're coming from there. I totally respect that.
Yeah, for sure.
From that same Jonathan, follow-up, favorite OHL rink to play in besides Barrie? We got a ton of Barrie questions today for you.
Favorite OHL rink? You got to say, obviously London. Back when you're that age, you don't know what it's like playing in front of that many fans, and then you step into London, and it's a whole nother animal. I actually loved playing in Barrie a lot, to the point where our fans were great. We always had a full building. It feels pretty tight in there, like they're kind of on top of you, so it's a lot of fun to play there. I'm trying to think. I can't even remember what OHL barns look like right now.
What's your favorite NHL rink
Wins.
to play in? How about NHL then? Like outside of yours, outside of BBT, what's your favorite NHL rink?
NHL is Vegas. Their fans are crazy, and I mean, obviously the party that they kind of throw in there is insane. It's like nothing
Yeah.
else in the entire league.
Mhm.
Obviously, every arena should be adopting that kind of system of getting fans riled up. Obviously, it's a different animal. People are there to party, there's no doubt, but you'd like to see that everywhere. And then Chicago, the way they clap during the national anthem, it'll send shivers down your spine every time. Montreal, it's always kind of a war zone for us, and that song that they play is you step out onto the ice and you're skating
The
around.
best.
Like I said,
The best.
the shivers, man, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It's no matter how many games you play in the NHL, I can imagine that it'll always get me.
I wanted to ask you, Joel Quenneville, what's the number one thing you've learned about him and from him this year?
Loves to win. Loves to win. Nobody loves winning more than him. That's his famous line right there. He's always having fun. He's always running up and down the bench when somebody scores. Like, holy shit, look at that shot! It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, no doubt. Obviously, he expects a lot from his players, and I think all of us respect him and want to win for him. And obviously, he's had the success. So have to look ourselves in the mirror and find a way to get things done under him, because in the end, it's up to the players.
Have you ever had a coach with a better death stare than Joel Quenneville?
No. Sometimes he's looking at you, and I'm like, what did I do? But I think he's just kind of zoned out sometimes, and just kind of because I think I asked, did I do something? He's like, no, what? He's like, yeah, he's like I said, he's a funny guy, but obviously all business when it comes down to it.
I love questions like this, Elliotte. From Nicholas G. Who's the biggest? Oh, dog.
Sorry,
Who let the dogs in?
That's Archie.
Hey, Archie. Man, let that dog out. He wants to go out for a squirt.
Yeah.
There we go. Who is the biggest gear geek on the Panthers? And is that you?
It's certainly not me. I realistically, it doesn't matter too much what I'm using or wearing. Maybe Jans or Gear Geek. I don't really know if we have anybody like that.
Yeah,
I'd like to say like Mark Scheifele or something like that in junior. I can give you that answer, but that's
what was he like?
That's all I can do.
What was he like in junior?
Just intense. Scheif. I mean, he's a little kid, right? I don't know if he's kind of broken out of that, but he used to be just a little kid all the time. He used to have the most fun at anybody. And that's not a knock on him. He's just he's a good person, loves to have fun, and I remember in junior he was just kind of like a little kid.
All right, Friedge, a couple more, and then we'll get going. Ask your final questions. We'll grab one more from the chat.
All right, my last one for you is, who is running the Panthers group chat and therefore sends the craziest stuff on it?
For sure, Jans. Jans is the most talkative in our group chat, for sure. I don't know if you guys know Mark Pissick all too well, but he is the most sarcastic human on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And he's always posting things in there. Like if somebody writes a 3-paragraph message about the NHLPA, he'll just respond with "don't care," and it's like you just like, come on, man. But he's joking, and we get it. But he's a pretty funny dude, for sure.
How are you in the group chat for the Panthers?
I try and stay out of it. Usually, if you write anything in there, you're going to get attacked at some point. So try to stay out of it as much as possible. But sometimes you get roped in. You got to give it back.
Don't take the cheese in the trap, Aaron. Don't extend your arm. Okay. Last one from Chad Ritchie. Toughest forward to play against, Aaron Ekblad. Who is that?
Well, for my first couple of years, it was Sidney Crosby, hands down. You can never get a rope on that guy. He's always moving, and he's so low and so strong. And obviously, we've all seen his legs. He's a truck, and kind of gets under me. I can't keep up with him. It's impossible. Now I like to say Nathan McKinnon. He's the quickest stick handler in the league by far. He's so agile. He turns on a dime like nobody else in the league, in my opinion. And like I said, you can't keep a hold of him. He's always moving in different ways and doing different things that you don't expect him to do, for sure.
Final question: the relationship between a defenseman and a goaltender is pretty close, and you've gone from playing in front of someone like Roberto Luongo to now playing in front of someone like Sergei Bobrovsky. Those are two very distinct players and two distinct personalities. How was that shift for you?
Roberto was the best. He, his glaring big eyes whenever you kind of did something wrong was absolutely hilarious. We always kind of talked about that, and I think there was some words about that at his jersey hanging ceremony. So I love playing in front of him. I always say he saved my ass a time or two, made me a hell of a lot better defenseman in my first couple of years than I actually was. So like I said, he saved me so many times, and obviously Sergey, one of the best goalies in the NHL. We trust him back there, and we're all still trying to build that kind of full season chemistry. We've only been together for a year now, and I think in the coming years, with the time that we're going to spend together, we're only going to get closer and closer in terms of on ice chemistry.
You're a class guy and a fantastic defenseman. Thanks so much for parking some time with us today on YouTube. We really appreciate it, Aaron.
Glad to be here, guys. Thanks for having me. Thanks for keeping me busy on a day like this.
No problem. Our pleasure. Trust me. We're trying to find things to do, and talking to you has been a delight.
Go walk the dog.
Yes. Take 100%. That dog out. Enjoy,
Can't
Aaron. We'll catch up soon. And thanks to everybody for joining us here on our YouTube channel. Our guest has been Aaron Ekblad of the Florida Panthers. We'll see you Thursday when we chat to both the Tkachuk brothers in the afternoon. And then later on, we will talk to Austin Matthews of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Thanks so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel. Have a great day.